Tonight. We have some regulars that we all know pretty well, so we're going to skip any kind of formal introductions. I'm just going to say I'm Penny Beeman with You for Paws of Love. And I'm co-hosted tonight with Cindy Campbell from Cindy Campbell Dog Training. And tonight our theme for our service dog handler chat is emergency preparedness. So we're going to go over just a couple of things that are important to Cindy and I, and then we'll kind of do some roundtable discussion of a few other things. So first off, for me, my kind of background with emergency preparedness, back years ago, before I actually was in the service dog world, I worked with the Office of Emergency Management, and so one of my jobs was to teach emergency preparedness to volunteers throughout our county, our region, and even some on the state of Michigan level. So I have a very, very strong background knowledge when it comes to emergency preparedness, and I used to help people fill out emergency plans and things like that. As part of our training, I actually taught volunteers how to go out into the community and help people that maybe were not so handy on a computer and things like that. Because I got to figure this was at least 10 years ago and not everybody had a computer at home, especially some of our older generation. But so I have a really big background in that. I'm not going to go over all that I used to do because I think the main theme is emergency preparedness, or sometimes referred to disaster preparedness, is really summed up well on one major website. So first of all, I did do a blog on it on my youforpaws.com website today. So there are some links there to help you, and anything that I'm going to talk about will be in that blog, as well as a personal story about a disaster that impacted my life and that of my dogs. So you have to hop on over to the blog if you want to hear that story. But the number one site I will send people to in the more tech savvy environment of today is ready.gov, because they go over everything you need to know, even with like plan templates that you can download and fill in the blanks. So the whole idea, their theme is create a plan, make a kit, which Cindy's going to be talking about in a little while, and then be informed. And that basically means know your area. So if you think about, like, all around the world, there's natural disasters all over the place. Cindy, being in California, is going to be more likely to have an earthquake, even though that's not unheard of where I'm at in Michigan. They're not usually life-threatening when they're in Michigan.
Unlike ours.
What?
Unlike ours.
Right. We're more likely to have tornadoes and winter storms that can cause power outages and all kinds of, trees down in roads and all kinds of issues that way that impacts us, that can be just as life-threatening. And so no matter where you are in the world, there is some type of natural disaster for that area. So the Be Informed section is more about know what is popular in your area as far as how to prepare specifically for that. But the overall idea is preparing for an earthquake is almost exactly the same as preparing for a tornado, with just a couple minor things. In California, things like hot water heaters are bolted down because, especially if they're gas, because
they're more than bolted down, they are strapped down
or whatever. That's not necessarily needed here in Michigan, but in Michigan, we have to have a basement pretty much, because if a tornado comes, yeah, you might be able to hang out in your bathroom shower if you can, if there's no windows in there and you're closed off and it's on a main level, but you're always safer in a basement. So there's just a couple of small things like that. And if you go to the ready.gov website, they will talk you through the special things that are important for your geographic location. And I know that covers the whole United States.
And I'm going to just mention real quick, Penny, one thing one type of disaster in particular. I mean, earthquakes, your building could fall down. Tornadoes, your building could fall down. But a grab and go situation is absolutely 100%. If you get an evacuation notice due to fire, you absolutely need to go, and that's where you need a grab and go bag. And
yes, and those can happen anywhere.
Those can happen. I mean, it's definitely a West Coast thing, all up and down from, from Alaska to Mexico. It's definitely a thing we need to be, and even as far, yeah,
and so I mean, it is everywhere.
Yeah,
but we want to wait just a little bit longer for the bag, because I know you're.
Oh no, I'm not jumping in with the bag, but I'm just saying how you respond in the initial notification of some, the notification may be the ground shaking, or the notification may be horns blaring, or the notification may be something else. It could be a shelter in place notification. We still have at least one nuclear power plant going in California,
right?
So
there's chemicals on the roadways and trainways and everything
else. The train crashes with
really big too. But I want to just touch briefly on why this is important for pet owners and why it's especially important for service dog handlers. So if you've been in a few of the groups lately, it is June, which is National Pet Preparedness Month. So there have been a couple of discussions in several groups that I've been in. But the real big important thing is there are organizations in every community that train for and plan for and prepare to help the community on some type of assistance level in a disaster. The problem is that it could be 3 or 4 days before these organizations can help. And most of these organizations don't deal with pets. Now they're starting to get more and more involved where they deal with pets. But if you're a pet owner, and especially a service dog owner, you have to have a plan, and you have to have a kit for yourself, but specifically also for your pets. And so I know Cindy's going to be talking about that kit. I have one other resource that I really want to share with people. It's also in my blog, but it is called Smart 911, which is a website. So the website is just smart911.com. And in there, you can go in and put your name, phone number, address, who's living in your house, what their phone numbers are, your next of kin. You can list your vehicles so that they can know, if they find a vehicle somewhere where it wouldn't normally be, they know you're probably close by. So like I have Michigan plates. And if I happen to be visiting Cindy in California and drove all the way there with my Michigan plates, the Smart 911 system in California would still bring up my emergency contact information without them having to try to search down my vehicle registration. So it would be quicker. What I really liked about this, which wasn't the case when I started talking about this website 10 years ago, but now in the section where you can put your pets, there's a section to highlight if you have a service animal. And then it allows you to choose whether it's a horse or a dog. And then it also allows you to put in, like they have about 5 of the really common disabilities. And they're more concerned about the disabilities that impact how first responders may need to respond to you, such as wheelchair, or if you're deaf, so you may not hear them knocking on your door, or if you're blind, those kinds of things. They're more interested in that. But if you don't have one of the top 5, they also have an other, so that you can list the most significant disability that's likely to be affecting you in an emergency. So one of them, Jen might be interested to know, was actually epileptic seizure, because that's a big thing. If they pull up that you have seizures, and I know Jen, along with other people with seizures, are triggered by the flashing lights. So if they can see that, oh, this is a seizure patient, we want to have lights off before we pull anywhere near her, that kind of thing. I know Jen's got that worked out with her local people, but not everybody does, and not everybody can. So being able to highlight that in this online profile, that is a nationwide system. Now, it used to be there were like 3 main ones that covered all of the US, but now they've kind of all merged together so they work together. And that makes it really, really nice. So I would highly suggest, if you don't have a profile, to go in and put your profile. You can put pictures of your dogs. It doesn't allow you to type in a whole lot of information, like you wouldn't be able to say, this dog does these 3 or 4 tasks and might have a problem with men. You know, you don't have that kind of space. It's the basics, which is all they're going to have time to read in an emergency anyways. But so if you do that and they're prepared, they know what they're coming into, what they're dealing with, and you can also, they can confirm next of kin right away as far as, we can't find this person, so who do you have on your list first for them to call? Or if you were just in a car accident, another discussion we recently had, they can call your next of kin and say, we have this service dog. We can't hold them very long. We need somebody to come get this dog. So having that information there and easily available for the people that you choose to be responsible for your dog, you know, having that in place can be a big help. And I mean, we can carry that on what's called ICE cards or ICE in case of emergency cards. I know some service dog handlers have like the seatbelt strap to put that kind of information, and you can carry it on you. But if
You can also put it in your phone, Penny.
Just a sec. If it's available online, it allows them to get it before they actually get to you, which may be important if it's in a disaster, which covers, you know, the whole community, and it's taking them days to reach you. Having that information online is crucial. Cindy, you had something you wanted to point out.
I was going to say, you can put your ICE information in your phone, which is really good when you're out and about, because who leaves their phone at home anymore? There's so many reasons to have your phone with you. And my background with emergency care, aside from being a generalized klutz, is I'm a retired nurse. I'm no longer a nurse in any state, so I am not giving anybody any nursing advice. However, the last 10 years I was working, I did telephone advice, and for the Northwest region of Kaiser Permanente, and I was a regional advice nurse, and I took care of everybody from hangnails to heart attacks to major brain injuries to somebody who fell out of the mast of a sailboat and sailed another 2 days before he could get in to seek care, which really should have been a 911, a Coast Guard call to get him off the boat. So you never knew what you were getting on the other end of the phone. And so after speaking with both paramedic, because I've asked specifically paramedics and emergency doctors, do you look at that information? They say yes. The other thing to keep in mind is, if you have your health insurance and your medical record, you know, how you access it, most likely treating physicians will be able to access your medical records, because almost every hospital is tuned in with Epic, which is a thorn in the side and everybody's best friend at the same time.
All right, so I just wanted to let people know about those couple of great websites. You can do the research on your own, or I am happy to walk you through it in more detail if anybody has any questions. If you go to the uperpause.com website, my email address is posted all over that, so reach out to me, whatever, I don't mind. I'm happy to help you with that. One other quick thing before I turn it over to Cindy to talk about her portion is that it's also super important that you have that plan in place specifically for your dog, whether it's a personal emergency, such as a car accident or even a heart attack, or it's the larger scale, you know, community-wide emergency disaster. If you don't have a plan in place for, you know, who can watch your dog, who can take your dog, and have trained your dog to be responsive to that person, it can make the difference as to whether your dog is traumatized by that emergency or whether you leave the hospital too early because you're worried about your dog. You know, having that plan in place can just be so much more beneficial for us as service dog handlers, since we do tend to have our dogs with us the majority of the time. So I'm going to turn it over to Cindy for just a minute to kind of show us her emergency kit that she keeps. And then we will do kind of our roundtable talk that we typically do.
Okay, so typically I have, actually, I'm going to turn my background off. Give me just a second, because I think it will be easier to, let's see. Okay, so it'll be easier to see what I have doing this. So generally I got a well-fitting backpack, and this is my day pack. And pretty much if I go anywhere with Nick, I take this with me. It also doubles as my purse. And the reason I'm really not a huge fan of taking heavy purses and backpacks anywhere. So sometimes it'll be stashed. Like if I go someplace with my boyfriend, it'll be stashed in the truck, and maybe we're out doing something. And if I need to attend to the dog and I need something, you know, emergently from the backpack, we might separate temporarily for him to go get that. But usually I try to keep the stuff I would need urgently on my person some way. So one of the things that's super important that everybody should carry at all times anyways is a flashlight. This one's really cool because it's a regular flashlight, it's a laser pointer, and it's an ultraviolet light. So, and it's USB rechargeable, so you don't have to worry about batteries. You can just plug it in, recharge it, and you're ready to go. And I keep one in my purses, and I keep one in the backpack, and I keep one around the house because one of Nick's tasks is laser retrieving.
And
so
I interrupt you for just a quick minute.
Yep.
After this chat and everything, can you make sure to send me a link for that light?
Absolutely. They were only about, they were under $10. So I got 4 of them. And the nice thing is you can, like I have one actually that I keep strapped to the backpack so that I know I have it. And so like, and I know all our phones have flashlights built into them, but just a quick story on that. My niece went down to, I don't know if it was Haiti or where it was. She went somewhere in the Caribbean to go do some disaster relief with her job. And there was no power, so nobody could recharge their phones, and there was no light. And, you know, these were people from Washington, D.C. No, she was the only one that knew how to drive a stick shift. So it was, and all the cars were stick shift. So the disaster workers weren't 100% prepared. But my sister, being my mother's daughter, had put little flashlights like this in their in her kids' stockings for stocking stuffers. So it's a good idea to have. They're not that expensive, and you know, you can use them if you're in a store and the lights go out, like say you're at Target and the lights, and you're in the way back of Target and the lights go out, you can find your way out with the flashlight. I also, especially these days with COVID and everything else, I carry hand sanitizer at all times. And because my hand, we should always carry sunscreen, because you never know when you're going to get stuck out in the sun. This isn't sunscreen, this is hand cream. I always carry that too, just in case, for dry skin. But if you need any kind of lubrication, that can be used for lubrication. If you, like, say something's going on and you get stuck out in the sun and you get windburn lips or sunburned lips, that will also help soothe them. Let's see, what else do I have in here? You can never have too many poop bags. Even in a natural disaster, poop bags can be used for so many things besides poop. You can mark something with them, especially if you have colored bags. You know, like if make a little flag with them, you know, say you're buried under something and you're trying to get somebody's attention. If you can stick it up and make it so it can move, you could use it for that. If you needed to carry something, you could put water in these if you had to. I mean, there's just all kinds of creative uses for them. It's just a matter of what are your limits? What do you normally carry? What do you normally use plastic bags for? You can use these for just about any of those things. Trash bags, dog poop, water, signals, anything you might need to carry. I also happen to carry, like most women, hair bands. These are both for me and for Nick because he has hair that has to go up. And, you know, assorted things people carry in their purse, like gum, because sometimes you need that because your mouth's getting dry. This particular backpack has 2 pockets on the side, generally going out, especially where I live, where it's hot, where, you know, we have 100-degree plus from May through October. I carry water on one side for me and water on the other side for Nick. And speaking of water, now if you're doing a grab and go, it's okay not to have the water in there because you're trying to get the heck out of where you're at as quickly as you can. And like, say you're trying to evacuate in a situation like the campfire when the fire was, I mean, they got like 10 minutes notice, if that, to get out of the house and get down the road. And there were still issues getting down the road. You take, you know, you grab and you go as quickly as you possibly can. That's where it's nice if you have a vehicle and you're able to set up your crate inside your vehicle and leave it there. That's nice. One thing I have all my stuff compartmentalized, so I know where it is and what it is. Extra leash. You should always carry, if you're taking your dog anywhere, you should always carry an extra leash because you never know what's going to happen. This one's kind of nice to carry because it's an airport security leash. So if you're going through TSA and they're being kind of dicks, for lack of a better word, and they're telling you you have to strip your dog naked, you don't. Legally, you don't, but if you don't want to fight with TSA, having something with no metal in it can be really handy. So you don't ever have to unleash your dog because that puts them at risk. It's also nice to have in a disaster because if there is a stray dog going around that you need to catch, you've got an extra leash. So I always carry an extra leash. This one happens to be the one that's in my go bag right now because that's where it kind of lives. It's a nice home for it. I carry a long line. So you're evacuated, you're out of danger. Everybody got out of the building, got out of the area, wherever the issue is. You're gone, you're stuck. You don't know if and when you're going to be returning. It's nice to have a long line with you. Again, it's another leash. It's another thing you can have, but it's also another thing so you got a stressed out dog, you got to de-stress them. Maybe a good sniffy walk is in order. You got it. Maybe a little play and games where they need more room to bounce is in order. You got it. You still have them secure, but you got a long line. And this one's nice because it does roll up pretty small as far as long lines go. And it's easy to clean. It's a bio thing. But the webbing ones, you can put in like a garment, not a garment bag, like a lingerie bag and put them through the washer and then they don't get as tangled. These live in my bag. And in case you don't know what I'm holding up, it's a dog shoe. I'm personally a huge fan of these Roughwear grip Trex. They last a long time. The dogs seem pretty comfortable in them. They tend to bend, apparently they bend in the right spot. They're difficult to get off Nick because he acts like he has a new pair of Keds. And he thinks that they're the cat's meow and he's pretty special and he gets a lot of attention when he wears these. So these are nice to have in your bag all the time. I don't see him in here. Generally, I have a pair of socks for him. So when he's feet aren't super hairy, the socks can go on underneath, just in case, you know, because like us, if they're going to be wearing shoes for a long time, it's kind of nice to have socks so they don't get chafed. What am I pulling out? Okay. So this is a controversial piece of equipment, but personally, I think it's something that as service dog handlers, we should have, and our dogs should know how to use it. And it is a muzzle. This one does not fit Nick well. I don't particularly like it, but at the moment, I'm too cheap to go buy a new one because this one will work. It's a Baskerville. He's been trained to use it. He will gladly stick his nose in there. And if you don't own a muzzle and you haven't trained it, I would, you can train it using a cone or a big cup and just having them learn to put their head in the cone so that if they did need a muzzle for any reason during a disaster, that's one less thing that's going to stress them out. They're still going to be stressed, but at least they'll know what sticking my nose in, and it doesn't mean the end of the world. In a situation where it's an emergency situation and your dog is being transported and you're worried about the dog biting the vet or the whoever's transporting them, it's not going to kill them to be in a grooming type muzzle, you know, the flat cloth muzzles that everybody says, oh no, they can't wear. It's not going to kill them to be in that. If they're being monitored, somebody's right there while they're being transported, you know, for veterinary procedures. Let's see what else, what other magic toys do I have in here? Oh, more poop bags. This one will clip on, but you can put, this will hold lots of different things, but I usually have, you can put a credit card and various things in here, but, oh, I have business cards in here too. But let's see. I think if I have anything else in here that's worth sharing. More hair bands. Oh, I know what I have in here. I have stuff hidden. Okay, so I didn't pull out my water bowl. I have many water bowls. This is a smaller one that fits in the backpack nicely. It's Roughwear again because I like their stuff, and as service dog handlers, we all know we get a discount there. And these last a long time, and they fold up small. The other thing I've been carrying since the pandemic started is masks. And we all know we need masks in some situations and not in others. And if it's better just, you know, if you can have them, it's better just to have them. It's like, these are the N95 masks. And so like, if you were driving out of a fire situation, these would be really nice to have because it may be so smoky you can't breathe. We've had days in the valley where while we weren't on fire, we had huge smoke issues going on. And so it's important to be aware of that. And I usually, this backpack lives by my front door, so I can grab it and go. The other thing I don't know if Penny didn't touch on this a lot, but something we need to consider for all our dogs, service or not, is crate training and what is going to happen. So a couple years ago, there was a big fire, maybe 20 miles as the crow flies east of my house. And it happened really, it started slow and happened really quick. And there were huge evacuations because there's essentially one road up into this area that was on fire. And they basically evacuated anybody that had anything to do with that road and pulled them out. And they evacuated things like camels, horses, mules, deer, bear, and these are people's private animals. These were not, I want to be clear, these were not wild animals. These were people's private animals. I remember seeing a post about needing oil pipe corrals, a place with oil pipe corrals to house the camels while the camels were being held as the fire went through. There were posts about, there were dogs being housed at the Fresno County Fairgrounds. There were dogs being housed at one of the high schools. And what they were doing with the dogs that were being housed was they were in a kennel, they were in a crate, and they'd be taken out a few times a day to relieve themselves. They'd be fed. And that situation was for people who had animals that they could not evacuate with them. And as a result of all the stories on the news, it's convinced me of two things. Always have a crate that your dog fits in, whether your dog, and it should, like, you know, like at least a wire crate that your dog fits in. And whether you use it or not, and have your dog comfortable in that crate, because you don't know the situation that's going to happen. So I have way too many crates. I don't need as many crates as I own. However, the crate that's in my bedroom is one that if we say we got a 20-minute, 30-minute evacuation, the crate that's in my bedroom would be pulled to use for Poe, and I can fold it flat with the mattress that's in it. And then Nick would use one of his travel crates, and I have an extra travel crate that would fit one of my boyfriend's dogs, and I have a two soft-sided crates. We happen to be lucky that we have access to a vacation trailer, so we could pull that out of the disaster area and camp with that, but not everybody has that. And people that were evacuated from the fire that had homes to return to were out of their homes for a minimum of 3 weeks as they were waiting for services like electricity to go back on. So what you grab, maybe what you grab as you're leaving, maybe all you get for an extended period of time or forever, depending on what the disaster is and how it affects your dwelling. And while ideally we would grab some of our dog's food, it's not always possible. But if you get out of the situation, you're going to get fed and your dog's going to get fed at some way. Nobody's going to starve to death. Ideally, you'd have some food with you. I tend to not carry a big pack of food. I have a bad back, so I don't like to carry a lot of weight. So I try and keep my pack to a minimum. I personally do not carry a first aid kit, and I stopped carrying one a long time ago. For a while, I had one in my car when I had a car, because I had a big backpack for first aid for when I was involved in a cycling team, and we could do a little bit before, like put a sling on before we sent somebody to the ER for a shoulder injury. I mean, one night at the track, I had a lady with a significant head injury and a broken collarbone. We'd called her husband to come get her. And we basically we put her arm inside her shirt to use as a sling. There's a lot of things that you can do that don't necessarily, or you could use a leash for a sling. If you need to stop bleeding, Penny's favorite thing was a bandana. That's an absolute excellent tool for that. Or if you needed a shirt, somebody's shirt or a jacket. So unless it's like 100 degrees and you're not wearing much clothing, you generally have something that can be used as to stop bleeding. And an extra leash can also be used as a tourniquet in the worst case scenario. So and a lot of it dealing with, if you're dealing with an injury per se while you're out and about, if it can't wait 15 minutes, it's 911. Otherwise, if you can't think clearly, somebody should be there that can kind of think clearly about what's going on, and, maybe a little bit creatively, or have a resource to call. Like I can call the regional advice nurses if I know it's not a life-threatening emergency and get direction. Or I'd just call somebody, either 911 if I needed transport and I was alone, or I'd call a friend or family member to take me where I needed to go. The reason I might call is if I knew I didn't need the ER and I needed urgent care, I might call to find out what the procedure was for urgent care here locally, because that will vary. Anything else, Penny? Anything you carry or?
No, I think that pretty much covers it. I do have a few more things, but like you mentioned, I have a car. So my stuff is in my car and I'm not having to carry it with me all the time. So I do keep a container of food in my car all the time. I use that when I make a trip down to my daughter's house or something, so that I'm constantly recycling it and it's not the same food always, so that I can refill it when I get back home and I have fresh food to last me for a while. I tend to always have at least 1 or 2 extra bottles of water in my car.
That's,
Also, being in a colder environment, I tend to have at least 1, if not multiple blankets in my car as well, because that can be really important.
I was going to touch on the water for a second. I tend to carry a bottle of water. I have Clovis City tap water, and that's what my dogs drink. I filter it, but I'm okay with them drinking just the tap water. They're okay with drinking out of puddles. I'm not okay with them drinking out of puddles. However, my sister had well water forever, and she was puppy walking service dogs for an organization. I'll leave that story alone, but she had to go back and forth between Palm Springs and Fresno a lot. And she always carried like the plastic ice cream tubs that hold a couple gallons of water, or like a gallon of ice cream.
Mm-hmm.
She'd put one of those in the back of her truck full of water with the lid on it. And that was water dish / water holder while she was traveling. And so the dogs got the water that they were used to. And that can be important, especially if you're on well water, because if you're on well water and you drink something that's been processed, it has chlorine in it, and or it's something you're not used to, the gut can get messed up, and you're fine.
The well water from different areas in Michigan, like our water here is very, very clean. But if I go into lower Michigan, like where my mom lives, the well water down there is just different. It may not necessarily be dirty, but it has
different minerals
in it that can make our dogs have an upset stomach and that kind of thing. So if they're not used to it, it can be important to have water from your home area, depending on how long you're going to go. If I'm at my mom's for a week, I'm not going to carry that much water with me.
No, but the other thing you can do is, so when we went to Atwater, we went to Atwater a couple of weeks ago, and for an open cockpit at a museum, an open cockpit day at an air museum. And we were outside in the sun, in the heat. It was like 89. It was like a 90+ day. And so Nick was wearing his shoes, multiple reasons. But at one point we needed water. And we had left I brought water, but I'd left it in the truck, knowing that it was event. And generally you can get a bottle of water fairly cheap at an event. So for $3, I got 3 bottles of water. I don't even think we finished it, but we each got our own bottle of water. And, if you're at an event like that, you can either take a bottle of water. Dollar Tree often has inexpensive water, or you can take, and the bottled water in theory should be filtered enough that there's not going to be anything bad in it that's going to offset your dog.
All right, so we're at the point of tonight where we kind of go into our roundtable or discussion. So being a smaller group, sorry, that was a migraine day, my words are messed up. Being a smaller group, we may get through both of the topics we discussed or pre-discussed, like what we wanted to talk about. The first one would be kind of the things that are in your emergency plan. And I don't want to put everyone on the spot. Like, you don't have to tell me your whole entire emergency plan. But as part of the discussion, and I'm just going to kind of review a little bit because there's a note in chat as well from Ashlyn. So we talked about preparing yourself and your dog for a national disaster. And we talked about a to-go kit to carry on. So now we want to look at the different things that you may want to include in your plan. So I think we could all pretty much agree that we want to have supplies. That's an ample part of the plan. So I don't really want to talk about supplies as of yet, although that might be our second discussion. I want to think more of, all right, so for me, my basic plan is if I'm not available, my husband will take care of my dogs And if neither one of us are available, then I have kids that would take my dogs that my dogs are well bonded to. So, you know, it kind of trickles down as to who, depending on who is available first. But so that's kind of one of the basics in my plan. And my plan is more detailed than that, but we can kind of go around and maybe just everybody, when it's your turn, give us one thing that is in your plan. You know, what you would do in an emergency with your dog, for your dog, or some kind of training you're doing to prepare your dog to be more resilient in an emergency. And so since Cindy's already talked and I've already talked to Jen, I'm going to turn it over to you. Do you have one thing you'd like to address?
Yeah, I actually have a couple. As far as like the water and certain supplies are concerned, and I know you said we'll maybe talk about supplies later, but it's fresh in my head right now, and the way my brain works, if it's gone, it's gone. So as you know, I'm really interested in backpacking. So I've been gathering supplies for things like that. And one thing, as far as the water goes, if there's a situation and like, you know, if there's a tornado, if there's a flood, things like that, it can make it so that your water is not usable and you may not be able to get to water. There's something that you can get at Walmart for like 20 bucks. It's called a Sawyer Squeeze, and it's a water filter that fits on the top of a smart water bottle, and it will get rid of giardia. It will get rid of a lot of different toxins that are in the water to make the water safe to drink. And this little thing that's worth 20 bucks, you can use it for, it's like an insane number of gallons of water. It's like 1 million gallons of water or something like that. So it weighs nothing. It takes up next to no space. It's definitely something that is worth having in a kit. And something else, I keep a leash in just about every room of my house, because if there is an emergency, if Betsy's terrified because the noise is really loud or something, she may be tucked in somewhere and hiding somewhere and very hard to get to. And I've got to run downstairs to get to where her leash and harness are, that I may not be able to get back up to her. So I keep a leash in just about every room where I spend a decent amount of time. It's not a fancy leash, it's just a cheap one, or, you know, some I've even found for free at, you know, different dog events and things like that. But there's something in just about every room so I can get her out. I also have reached out to my fire department, and my fire department has sent a whole fleet, like a rig with a fire engine and an ambulance, fully staffed, to my home because I don't drive. And they strapped me to a gurney to work with Betsy on training and getting her comfortable with them handling me. And also, you know, those are loud diesel engines. If your dog's not used to a loud diesel engine, that could be something that would terrify your dog. And
you have that medical emergency, you're already going to be stressed enough, and just that alone is going to stress your dog. So having them prepared for those sights, sounds, smells is a wonderful.
Even the ambulances are, you know, there's a very good chance the ambulance is going to be a diesel engine, which sounds very different than a car engine. I'm fortunate my boyfriend's truck is a diesel. My sister has a she has like a 3/4 to 1 ton diesel, and Nick absolutely loves to go in it because that he thinks that means he's going to agility if he gets in her truck. So diesel equals fun for him. And that's something I wish everybody had with their dogs, because it's like you're saying, it's very important to be used to all those sights and sounds.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with the muzzle training, because that is something that in an emergency, most likely they're going to have to muzzle your dog for their own safety. And for your dog's safety and comfort, that's very important. And I have actually, Betsy is weird with a lot of different things that we've really been trying hard to work through, but some of her little nuances and things that she's afraid of are sight related. I have actually worked with her on, the neck gaiters. Well, I have some for her that are like cooling neck gaiters because Betsy gets very overheated very quickly. I'm sure Nick does too, being black, and I know Azul does. I carry a t-shirt, like a white t-shirt for her. So if we're in the sun, that helps to keep some of the heat off of her. And the neck gaiter as well. But I'm also working with her. We aren't 100% there yet, but I'm working with her on covering her eyes with it and having her follow my voice. So if there's something that's really scary for her, and people are like, oh, that's cruel. Why would you blindfold your dog? Sometimes that's the least cruel thing that you can do, is to expose them to, or not expose them to some things.
Yeah, that's actually something that can be very calming for any animal. If you ever watch how they remove horses from a fire situation, they're almost always blindfolded or freaking out. They're probably freaking out a little bit when they're not blindfolded, but it's a very common thing. That's why when they jump on crocodiles, they put something over their eyes. It stops a lot of this stuff. And it's always the other thing to train so when I train muzzle training, one of the things I do is I use, well, this is full now, but you can use something like this. This is just one of those kitchen things that holds your, I've had it forever, that holds your spoons and stuff by the stove so that you have them easily to grab. Well, I thought it was more important I've got dog food in there right now because I use that to throw for marking when they're distracted. When they're distracted, that's their reward for not barking out the window. But goggles are another thing that can be used as a safety item if there's anything going on that needs their eyes covered, and getting them used to that.
Cindy, I have a question about goggles, actually, because there's no way that I can afford, things like the muffs and the rec specs, and my only income's disability and
right
strapped. Would something, I know it's not
ones.
ideal, but like if you had a pair of goggles from the dollar store for swimming or something like that, if it's an absolute.
Does Penny has your contact information? Doesn't she? Okay, I'll look for them. I think I have an extra pair of goggles, and I can either send them to you or Penny because I know you guys interact periodically.
Yeah, I'm going out there next week.
Yeah, so I can send them one way, and you guys can see which dog they fit the best and try them on because they are goggles.
Great idea. But yeah, I actually got a text from my sister too, because she came across somebody who at a flea market bought like a grab box of stuff, and she didn't know what was inside, and she opened it up and it had dog goggles in it. And so my sister, I gave her instructions, but all the large there are, no matter what, if they don't fit Azul, I'll find a dog they fit. And so she got 3 pairs for under $10 total.
Wow.
Those are coming my way soon. So I don't.
So should I send my goggles to Lyra?
But when you get a deal like that, you got to take it.
You grab it and, you share it. If you can, you share it with it's like, if anybody needs Ryobi tools right now, Home Depot has, if you buy a starter battery pack for $99, which is on sale, you get a free tool. I needed a crate. Found this out because I was looking for a Ryobi, a rechargeable fan that wasn't $400 to go on my crate. So I got a $59 fan plus the 2 batteries and the charger that I needed for $100. And my boyfriend's like, well, I've got 3 of those batteries. I'm like, yeah, you have 3 of those batteries. I need the batteries because I may be taking my crate and my fan someplace without you. So,
but it's nice to have backup.
Another piece of equipment that I think is really cool that's very prevalent in like the dog hiking community
Mhm.
is a dog carry out where, I mean, even when you have a big dog, and I mean, I've got back problems, but you know, if it comes down to it and Betsy's having an emergency, I will figure out how to carry her 65-pound butt out. But it basically ends up being like a harness that you build around your dog, and then it goes over your shoulders so you can carry them on your back. So if there is a tornado or an earthquake or something like that, and if your dog is injured and you're okay, you can still get them out if necessary.
Mhm.
They're not cheap, but it's
No.
a cool piece of
Right.
equipment.
Well, I can guarantee you, I am not carrying Poe anywhere. She's 120 pounds. I'm not even going to try.
Yeah, she's a little large.
And she
Um,
doesn't, she also doesn't go near the number of places that Nick goes anymore because she's got bad hips, and she decided quite a while ago she was done working. She'll do occasional things and she'll say occasionally I want to train, but she's like, no, I work on my terms.
Lyra, do you want to add anything or tell us about a training that you do to prepare your dogs for an emergency?
Yeah, I don't, I keep most of my stuff in my car. I used to carry a tactical bag on my back, a little mini tactical backpack, and I had a bunch of stuff in it, first aid kit and different things. But my back issues have gotten so bad I had to stop using a backpack and start carrying a fanny pack. So I'm very limited on space on what I can carry in my fanny pack. But I do have a mini first aid kit, a little multi-tool, some
That's one thing I need to put back in my bag because multi-tool has endless uses, even with dog first aid.
Yeah, I got the multi-tool. I got earplugs for sensory issues. A very, very small compact slip lead that's like one of the slip leads they give you for free at the vet clinics. And so it folds up like super, super tiny, like the size of a battery. And I tuck that in my fanny pack.
Those are cheap to buy. If you have to buy them, you get like 5 for under 10, I think.
Yeah.
Right, and while we may not want to use them on a day-to-day basis because the slip blades come with their
Still
own
good to have.
fallout, in an emergency situation, if you don't have a leash, it may be better than nothing else. So that's
Right,
light.
and
It
if
comes
you
in handy in that emergency pack.
and if there's an issue with the leash, but the dog's wearing a collar or a harness, you can easily attach the slip leash to the collar or the harness. Just
Right.
So it's not like the slip leash has to be on as in a choking way. And if your dog is already trained to behave,
Right.
as a fully trained service dog, they should be able to walk nicely without pulling on the leash. And if that, even in an emergency, I don't care what they're doing. I just, if it's get the heck out of Dodge, it's whether you're dragging them or they're dragging you, you get the heck out of Dodge.
Right.
Yeah, and if your leash breaks or
If I
whatever.
had to.
Pardon me?
Saying, and if something happens, your leash breaks or something, or like falls off or
Yeah. And
something, at least you have an extra leash or stray dog, like you said.
Yeah. And I just happen, the reason I carry the leather one is because then I know where if I fly somewhere, I know where that particular leash is. And that's, if I have to go through a metal detector for any reason, and I'm like being told I have to strip my dog, I know where that leash is. It's with me. So
yeah.
I have one that's like that as well. It has a lock in place, so I can slide it on any dog, but it won't choke down. But that lock in place still is plastic too. So it's a transportation flight type leash that you can use so that you don't have to take your dog off leash.
yeah, and that one has a leather tab.
Well, yeah, I thought I saw it. I just wasn't sure.
It's got a leather tab that you can lock it so that which is nice to have. I put, Nick, even with all his issues that he's had, I took him through both the TSA in Fresno and the TSA at PDX on that leash with no other gear on, and we didn't have an issue. And what my experience is, at least with my dogs, they've been calmer going through TSA and less likely to run than at other places. But I'm not taking the chance, and they can't make me take my gear off. I'll comply to a certain extent, but I won't comply to the point where my dog is completely off leash.
Right. So,
And that, that could be going to a fair, like, I don't know how you guys, what your fairs are like. But we went to the fair last October and we had to go through I had to get my backpack checked, and they were asking us about keys and knives. They were looking at our keychains to make sure we didn't have brass knuckles on them. And, it's like, this is really weird. And we had to go through a metal detector. So you never know where that's going to happen. Or if you have to go to court, you may have to take and you're taking your dog, you have to go through a metal detector. So they may have you do special procedures.
yep, I have to go into the courthouse here occasionally for one. That's where our dog license is. So I have to go in to pick up my service dog tag every year. But so the very first thing they do when you walk in the door is say, empty your pockets. And so I always have a handful of change. I got keys, I'm emptying my pockets, whatnot. And then I always hit that pocket and go, oh, wait, you're welcome to check this pocket, but you don't want me to empty it. And it's
your food pocket?
Dog food or dog treats. It's my treat pocket. There's nothing in there but dog treats. I guarantee it. Yeah, they always get a kick out of that one.
Well, I set the metal detector off without a dog and without gear and without metal on me. So it's like, whatever, wand me, I don't care. I'm not going to blow the plane up.
Metal detector training is a really good training for an emergency situation. Because like you said, you never know where you're going to be at, whether it's a courthouse. Even some hospitals do have medical detectors. It might be more rare. Some high schools have them, and your emergency shelter could be in a high school, especially high school gym. And if that high school has a metal detector, that could be an additional stressor for your dog. So it's a good idea to have that. Ashlyn, I don't know if you're typing anything to add to it in the list. I kind of want to look back at.
I forgot to add one too.
I'm sorry, what was that, Lyra?
I said I forgot to name one of the things that's in my bag. That's one of my favorite things to have too. Is a shiwi. Very, very, very convenient and awesome to have for like any emergent situation where you need to go to the bathroom and don't have access to a bathroom.
It's called a bush.
No, but you don't have to take your pants off or anything. It like just slides in the front of your pants, and it's a funnel, and you can pee.
Well, my kids were super excited when they got to pee on a wall in downtown Portland one time.
That might be an off-recording conversation. I have a story you guys might want to hear. Well, Ashlyn does say that the basketball games have metal detectors, and she passes through. She also makes sure she keeps a mat in with her supplies, because you never know. Like Azul would typically prefer the harder floor because it's cooler. But if we're in an environment, maybe even just a restaurant where something got spilled on the floor and it's sticky, or, having that towel, small towel, or even a receiving blanket or an actual dog mat can help to provide, that safe place for them to stay without fear that they're going to lay down in the syrup that got spilled on the floor. Another funny story, as almost a whole half a cup of syrup almost got dumped on my service dogs. But yeah, it missed him by about 6 inches. And he just kind of looked at me like that was close. And it was at least a half a cup of syrup.
There's all kinds of things. One of the things I do on a routine basis, I'm diabetic. This is one of those packs that I got for my rough wear harness when I got Poe. This is Poe's color, it's purple. But I keep my insulin and my diabetes supply in this, and it's usually not attached to a dog. but it's also in a place where I know where it is and I can grab and go.
Mhm.
And if I need more than what's in here, I have numbers I can call. You know, I'm fortunate the way my healthcare is set up. It's a regional thing, and there's a number I can call and say, hey, I was just evacuated. I had to leave my insulin in the refrigerator, you know, or I forgot my insulin. I've got syringe, I've got, you know, this number of syringes. I've left my insulin in the refrigerator. I need another vial, but insulin's also available without a prescription if you know what you're
Right.
taking. So, you know,
Sorry, I don't want to cut you off. Go ahead, Sydney.
I was just gonna say, it's also really important to know where your prescription, you know, if you have, like, if you get your prescriptions filled at some place like Walmart or Rite Aid or something, they probably have it in their system. There's, you know, national system of what you take, where you know, where you got it, when it was last refilled, and you're in a disaster situation. If your pharmacy is more than just a mom and pop pharmacy, they should be able to get it to you easily. If it's a mom and pop pharmacy, they should be able to get you in touch with a doctor who can prescribe, you know, refill those medications by phone somehow. And same goes for your dog. If your dog's on something more than a heartworm, flea prevention, and it gets left behind for whatever reason, like, say, you know, God forbid, there's a major earthquake and you're in the middle of PetSmart when it happens, you're not going to get home because, you know, you get home and your house is flat and you can't get in or get anything out. That's when you need a plan of, you know, how do I get the things that I need? And it may, you know, it may take a couple days, may take a week, but, you know, if you have anything that's emergent, that's going to require you to be, that you require daily or you're going to die, it's usually much easier to get. Like I said, insulin is available over the counter. You used to be able to buy insulin syringes over the counter really easy. I don't know, with all the drug problems, what the current status of that is. I just call Kaiser and I get big boxes of them sent to me. But, you know, it's something to keep in mind, because we're not talking just about planning for our dogs. We're also talking about us a little bit.
Right. Another thing that I like to keep in my day pack, which I kind of came up with my own unique design, because it's small enough to slide into either a purse, a hip pouch, my back pocket. I have a really thin, small pocket on his little service dog vest when he does wear a vest. But so a cleanup kit. I clean up
Any kit.
Well, and I mean, it's more than just that, but it can be used as that. So I have like 2 of the automotive strength paper towel sheets, you know, the blue stuff that's sold in automotive because it absorbs more.
It's stronger.
Yeah. And I have 2 basic Lysol wipes, or, you know, whatever kind of antibacterial wipe you may want. And I have 2 poo bags, and those are all in their individual small, like, snack size Ziploc baggie with the air squeezed out. And then I stuff them all inside one little bit bigger baggie that I can roll up and stick it in any pocket I want or any bag I want.
And it will fit in one of this size bag. And this one happens to be a Roughwear, but I noticed that PetSmart also has them for a lot less money than Roughwear has.
I've done that too, but they came in handy for not just cleanup if you have an accidental, you know, dog potty in a place that you shouldn't.
They also work on kids.
His upset stomach, he tends to, you know, go the opposite way if it's too early in the morning. So if he has that upset stomach, but then I've also used, like, I've handed my cleanup kit to a mom that had a toddler that was eating a sucker and is now all sticky and wants to pet my dog. I've had a dog get injured out on the trail, and because I had that heavy duty blue, you know, paper towel, I was able to use that for my compression to be able to stop the bleeding before the dog could get to the place to get to the vet to get his chin stapled. Thank you very much, Remy. But so anything like that, you know, that cleanup kit is, I've actually given my kit away more than I've used it for me and my dog. But I rarely go anywhere without one. I have rolled it up and put it in, like my poo bag container is just one of those really small ones that doesn't hold more than a roll of
Mhm.
bags. And I used to keep one in one of those. I can get it that small. Now I keep my meds container and poo bags in there. So, you know, my emergency meds with just a couple of pills of anything that I might need when I'm out on a walk or in a grocery store or whatever, my emergency meds. I don't necessarily keep a full daily supply in that because that's in another bag itself that I can grab if I'm leaving the house for an emergency. But that cleanup kit is just one of my top favorites. Does anybody else have something that they want to add, like kit wise or supplies they carry?
Well, when
Yeah,
I had a car, I kept crates in the back of my car. Well, I kept various, depending on what was going on in my life. There was a period for a very short period of time when I didn't have a dog. But generally speaking, I kept crates in the back of my car even before I had a service dog, because it's much easier to transport a dog under any circumstances in a crate, especially if they're crate trained. And it's, you know, the other thing to think about is if it's a transportation, if you're using it for transportation specifically, the smaller it is for your dog, the better, because if you are in a crash and there's less room for your dog to get jostled around in the crate. If it's smaller, you know, the bigger the crate is, the more room there is for the dog to stretch out. Well, it's also the more room for them to get jostled and banged around, and the more likely it is for them to get hurt.
Jen had something to add?
Yeah, you actually gave me one of those cleanup kits that you were just talking about. Something that would be a decent thing to add to that, just because it goes with everywhere, is a few pieces of paper and like a little pencil like that they give out at, mini golf or bowling or something like that, a little itty bitty, but to have duct tape wrapped around that, because it doesn't add any more weight, it doesn't add any more bulk. But if there's an emergency, and yet, for me with seizures, sometimes I can't talk. And if I could put it together to write something, at least it's a way to communicate. Or if, say, you randomly, see a dog and there's a neighbor there, and you can write a note as far as, hey, your dog was out, I brought your dog to my house because nobody was home, and stick it on their door. It's just something that's convenient to have, and it could come in handy in a lot of different situations. And duct tape can help to keep a wound sealed. It can help to, if you needed to use one of those heavy duty paper towels to cover your dog's foot, it gets a blister, and then you've got duct tape that you can put around the ankle to hold it in place. That would just be something that, it could just elevate that to the next level, to give just a couple more tools to have to use for first aid, for cleaning up, for giving a message, just anything.
Well, that's actually something that's in the National ready.gov place. You should have in your kit, but it's something we've totally forgot to mention.
Well, and then a piece of paper to write something on, to leave a note, like you said. If you needed to get somebody's information, like say you're at the dog park and somebody's dog attacks your dog and they're about to leave, you tell somebody to run over and follow them and take the picture of their license plate so you can track it, or DMV, so the authorities can track it and figure out who it is. That's where something a cell phone could do. But it's also something you can put their contact information into, but you can't leave a note that way. If it's your neighbor, you might know their phone number, and you could give them a text, hey, dog got out, got it. Just pick it up when you come home. Then they know, okay, when I get home, my dog's not going to be there. That happened. So the other day, or a few weeks ago, Poe was still at Ken's house doing her spring thing. It was before it got real hot. And he got a text from his next door neighbor. His next door neighbor was going out of town, and apparently Poe broke a couple of old fence boards. The fences are like 30 years old. And apparently Poe popped through to the other side and decided that the lawn on the other side was better than her lawn. And the guy tried to catch Poe, and he couldn't catch Poe to move her or do anything. So he was okay with her staying in his yard. And so he just sent Ken some pictures that, it was a picture, hey, dog's in my yard, and a note and saying what had happened, and it was okay for her to stay there. And, can we work on getting the fence fixed? And so it's a community, they both own the fence. So it's like, they both needed to pay, they were both involved in fixing the fence, but it was, don't panic when it was a kind of a don't panic when you get home and the dog's not there. We know where it's at, and she's fine.
Right.
I just didn't catch her. And, that's when it's nice to keep contact numbers with your neighbors and be on at least friendly terms, try and be on friendly terms. You don't want the neighbors throwing poison steak over the fence. You want the neighbor, calling you to say, hey, your dog's okay, he's fine, he or she's fine, they're in my yard, keep an eye on him.
Right.
Or if they, the other thing we haven't touched base on, Penny, is ID on your dog and microchips. I think that fits in here too.
Very important. It sure does.
So I was just thinking about this. So in the state of California, to have a service dog in training, to have public access for your service dog in training after the age of 4 months, when they get their first rabies vaccination and they're required to be licensed, if you want to take your dog to non-pet friendly places to train, you are supposed to have a California service dog license, or your dog can be legally removed, legally and easily removed from the situation. Now, if you go in there and you don't have it and your dog's behaving, chances are they're not going to even notice your dog. But the other side of that is, by getting your license that way, at least in the state of California, your dog is licensed and recognized as a service dog or service dog in training, regardless of what is going on. And there is some legal, it's licensed with the city in Clovis, where I live. They actually make you fill out some forms. The county of Fresno makes you fill out some forms, and it tells you, it screens the ESAs from the service dogs. So it offers, if a business tried to give me grief about Nick going into the business, if they were giving me grief, there's some criminal law, and they called the cops and said he can't go in because I don't allow dogs in my business. And they called the cops. They're the ones that are going to get in trouble and get the fines, because the state of California actually has a criminal code against denying access. So it's to my advantage to have my dog licensed as a service dog. The other thing it does is it gives me, I don't have to pay licensing fees for my city or county dog license.
Right.
Which is a
nice to have some kind of ID number on your dog. Well, our tags have an ID number that can be tracked. Our county license tag has a number that can be tracked. Microchips, there is really big in the UK is the the QR code on a dog tag, because then if information changes, you can, go to your website, change your phone number, change your address, whatever, and the dog keeps that QR code tag on their collar.
So Nick had both Nick and Poe had home again tags that came with their chips. Mm-hmm. And in the course of playing, they removed they were rubber tags. And in the course of playing, they removed and destroyed their tags. So I have removed
tags I've lost is unreal. I know.
So I generally don't keep tags on my dog. Nick does not wear tags for the most part. He is chipped. I always have, I do carry his licenses. His tags are on my key ring. However, his GPS collar has a when I ordered it with the flat bar, you know, like they put on the horses halters with the nameplate on it. I put one of those on his fee collar, and it's flat. So like if I take him out, if I go anywhere with him, I usually put that on him. So, and I have my keys with me, so that if there's any question, you know, if they needed to know my phone number immediately, it says Nick and it has my phone number. And so somebody
the amount of dog license and rabies tags and whatnot that I have lost from coming off a collar is absurd. So my important tags, like Cindy, they stay on my key chain. So dealing with my background very well. But so that is with me always. I even have the AKC Kennel Club, which has Azul's registered number, so that if, you know, somebody were to find him, and I keep that one on there mainly because if I do end up somewhere where I don't have his normal collar, where his normal tag, you know, name and phone number tag isn't there, that is a Reunite ID number that they can pull up the actual information you have on file with AKC about who owns the dog and how to get in touch with them. So it's my backup tag that I can throw on. Like I actually went out one day and didn't have a collar on at all, didn't realize it. And we happened to be going to the dollar store. So I picked up a cheap dollar collar just so that he had something on it. And I could slide his AKC tag off of my keychain and put it on that temporary collar for the day so that at least he had some kind of identifier on him.
Well,
and then buy the really cheap, you know, they're just like $4 on Amazon, standard tag that has his name and then my name and phone number on it, that when he loses it, I can just order another one. And, you know, since they're $4, it's easier to replace the county tags.
I'm going to go back to chips for a minute because this is really important. So Nick actually has 3 chips that have been injected into him. The breeder did the first one, I did the second one, and the vet did the third one. The first 2 were the AKC Reunite. Neither of them work. Neither of them could be found. We have never found them. We have scanned all over the place. I know they went in. I was there. I was present. One I did, one the breeder did. And, you know, neither one of us are people that are afraid of giving shots I have done far more complicated procedures on people than sticking a needle under the skin with, you know, a trocar needle under the skin and putting a grain of rice under the skin. So I don't know what happened. I think they had a bad batch. But I have always, when I take my dog in to get a vet check for any reason, even if it's just to get booster shots, I have them scan my dogs to make sure the chips are still working, because occasionally there will be a malfunction.
And that can disappear.
Or disappear like Nick's. And that's why when they first if you have them put in the vet office, that's why they scan them immediately. That's why I had Nick scanned multiple times before we did the second and third one. And I let the breeder know who put the chip in. And I know she wasn't, you know, I know she was somebody who was experienced doing it because she's had puppies, you know, she's been breeding for 20 years. And oh man, Nick is standing in a perfect stacked position right now, looking out the door. He wants to go outside, but it's really funny because he just like automatically stacked on his own. But so it's important to keep that information. The other thing is, like, my vet keeps the chip information on file. Every time I get any paperwork back from Nick, it's got his chip information on it. So like when you get your rabies certificate that you have to turn into the city or county, the vet that's part of the dog's ID number with the vet.
And I wish I would have known that earlier today, because we went to the vet and I never would have thought to have that checked.
Well, you can usually walk, like if you take your dog into I don't know how far you are from PetSmart or Petco where they have a band field at PetSmart. If you go into any vet's office or any place that has a scanner or animal shelter, they will scan your dog. They don't charge you anything for it. They're just making sure the chip is doing what it's doing. And so we had the last time I was in class, there was a lost dog that came into PetSmart that was unattended and ran into the store, or got dumped off and ran into the store. And so once they caught the dog, they took the dog over to the vet clinic in the store and had the chip read to see if who to call, or whether they needed to call animal control to come get the dog.
I don't want to cut anyone off if they have something that they really want to share, but I know this has gone a little over an hour, so I don't want to talk all night long for the recording either. Lyra, you've been quiet for a while. Did you think of something you want to add? Or Ashlyn? I did forget to read one of Ashlyn's things. So she does tend to fall on her dog often. Not necessarily, it's just with mobility issues, it happens, or the dog causes you to trip and fall on the ground. And so she makes sure that she does keep a first aid kit in her car or truck, just in case either one of them get injured. But yeah, there's a lot of different applications where we just never know what's going to happen. I mean, I know Azul has taken me down a few times. And I know most large breed dogs have at some point in time, or most of my dogs have had an injured paw pad or something. So just having that is really important.
Well, even just having, if you have an injured pad, even just having a pair of boots and, potentially a maxi pad or a tampon that you could shove in the bottom of the boot and have the dog walk on that, or tape it to their pad and put the boot on over that, will protect the pad as you're getting the dog back to where you need to get it back to.
Right. So
Didn't
Lyra,
have thought about that. That would come in
when
really
I
handy.
talk. Lyra, do you have anything you want to add?
I can think of to add.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of hard because we've been like all over the place, which I get. The big thing is go to ready.gov. Not only do they have that list of things to put in your personal pack, but they have a whole pet page that gives you things that you may want to have packed for your dog. And then service dogs are pretty much the same, with only maybe a little bit of extra things. A service dog may need a couple of extra things to help with a task. So having those around are imperative as well. So if you at the website, or if you need additional help with knowing what to put in your emergency kit, please let us know. The other thing that we really didn't discuss a whole lot is the actual plan of what you're going to do with your dogs in an emergency, or the plan of, emergency transportation or anything to that effect that may not be 100% in your control. We touched on an emergency shelter where your dog may have to be crated elsewhere and not be in the shelter with you unless it's a service dog. But we didn't really touch on other parts of the emergency plan. Does anybody have any last minute thoughts, emergency plan wise, away from the kits, that you want to add to tonight's message?
I think it goes back to the phone, about having a phone and a charger available as much as, so that you can recharge it. But say you're transported and your dog's transported, or something comes up, there should be a list of people in your mind, or a list of people that it could be friends, it could be family, it could be a mixture, that you can go. Neighbors. It doesn't have to be somebody that you know really well. It just has, like, I only know Penny from talking to her online. So I would say, I don't know her as well as maybe I'm like 99.9% certain if we met in person, we'd be good friends.
Right. But it's convenient for me to go get your dog in an emergency.
It's not convenient for that. However,
Right.
if I was in Michigan, if I lived down the street from Penny, but I didn't know her, I would still trust Penny to get, I would trust Penny to get my dogs. I would trust one of my sisters, but I really would be kind of leery of having the other one because her dogs are so out of control and my parents' dog is so out of control and they don't listen to, won't respect how I train. So I wouldn't send them there. However, the first option, and even if it meant Nick had to be crated 99% of the time, the first option would be to my boyfriend's. I don't live with him. He doesn't live with me. However, I trust him. I mean, Poe goes over there and she'll go spend weeks or months at a time over there for a variety of reasons. If I can't, and the most recent one where we did this, I enacted that plan. She went over and spent almost 8 months with him when I injured my back and could barely walk. And she was perfectly content, but we decided to bring her back over here when it got really hot because it's just too hot for her to be outside and she doesn't fit through the doggy door. But having that plan in place of going, okay, I know Poe can go over there and he likes Poe and he listen, I'm fortunate to have somebody in my life that follows my lead when it comes to dog training. But I also know I have a list of trainers that are local, that are friends, that I could, hey, Sarah, I'm stuck in the hospital. I need somebody to pick up my dog here. And my trainer at PetSmart would probably come get the dog as soon as she was able. And being that she has a ton of dogs at her house, it wouldn't be a big deal. And at that point, I would not be, I may have a list of instructions 10 miles long on what to do with Nick, but honestly, that plan goes out the door if you have a situation and you cannot control when your dog goes to be with somebody else. Correct. You just can't, and you can't micromanage it. You have to be able to go, okay, this is somebody I trust, and the situation may be different than it is at my house, but when he comes back, he's going to be fine.
And keep at least 2 people's phone numbers that you trust in your purse or your wallet, because if something happens and you're in an accident and your phone gets smashed or your phone is dead, you need to be able to access those numbers. And it's not like the 80s where we remember everybody's phone number anymore. And if you're frantic or incapacitated in some way, that is a way that, and I'm saying this and I'm thinking, I don't have anybody's phone number in my purse, but it's a way that you can get contacted, because I actually had asked the paramedics when they came to work with Betsy and me about accessing the phone stuff. And the paramedics that I was speaking to had specifically, because I keep all of my emergency info in my phone, and they specifically said, everybody has a different phone, a different model. They've got different security features on their phone. And we don't always know how to get into everybody's phone. They didn't know how to get into an iPhone for the emergency contact information, which to me is super simple because I have an iPhone, but to them it was like, it's lost on me.
Okay, so what you can do on that is when you take a picture of like Betsy and put your emergency contact information, who your first and second, put service dog, do not separate, and then put your emergency phone contacts on the front of your phone, not on this screen, but on the home screen that when you that before you unlock your phone.
That's a good idea.
And there's absolutely no excuse for them to not have that contact number. I left my phone in the bathroom at a dog show, and it has a picture of Nick on the front of the phone. But I found out when I edited the picture, the phone number for my boyfriend was cut off partially. So they couldn't call him and tell them they had my phone. But
they had the dog down.
Pardon me?
So they hunted the dog down?
They found the dog. Yeah, exactly. Well, and it's not with a corded poodle, even at a dog show, there's not that many black corded poodles. And it was right near the obedience ring, so they knew it wasn't with the confirmation poodles. So sometimes
that's very unique as well. So his picture is always on my phone.
Right, exactly. So if you have your service dog, that's your service dog, they're going to know what your dog looks like, and then you can double you know, like you said, we don't remember phone numbers like we used to. And if we get bonked over the head or we have a seizure or our blood sugar crashes or something and can't remember, but that's a good way. And Lyra's got her hand up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say a great solution to that I've seen some other handlers do is have an emergency medical alert bracelet. They have like metal engraved bracelets, kind of like a dog
Oh
having
yeah.
a collar tag, where if you were unconscious or whatever in an accident, you can have like that spare emergency contact phone number engraved on the bracelet.
It's
And
called
you wouldn't have to-
there's two versions. You can get an actual medic alert and you can get a road ID. And depending on how you have, I need to get a new road ID because my last one has my previous information, but the most recent one I've had is I put my name, my medical insurance and my medical record number on it. And I put the number for the healthcare insurance on it because I have Kaiser, and the way it's set up, if they call Kaiser, if EMS calls Kaiser, they get sent back to the emergency doctors and they can look up my chart and they can look up everything and it goes very quickly. They can get all the information that they need out of my medical record that way.